The galactic selection ceremony had existed for 400 years. Every species with a seat on the conclave sent one candidate, one mind, one voice to carry the Ring of Accord, the ancient artifact that bound 17 civilizations to a single charter of mutual survival. The ring did not care about strength. It did not respond to brilliance or bloodline or diplomatic training. It chose. No one had ever understood how. Ambassador Varek of the Thalindri watched the human candidate from across the ceremonial hall and felt the familiar weight of institutional certainty settle in his chest. The other candidates were known, prepared. Candidate Aresa of the Salvari had spent 12 years in the Conclave's academy. The Drothi delegation had sent their most decorated elder. The Finnish sent a collective of 3 bonded minds, which was technically against protocol, but no one had ever told the Finnish anything twice. The human, the file said her name was Una Choi, had been selected 3 weeks ago by a process her own government had described as a regional lottery with portfolio review. She was 31. She had spent 9 years as a crisis negotiator for a city authority on a continent called North America. Before that, she had worked briefly in something called a public defender's office. She was not famous. She had no title. She had published no academic papers on interspecies philosophy or the history of the Accord. She was standing near the refreshment table eating something orange and looking at the ring with no particular expression on her face. Varek studied her. He could not help it. Most candidates, when they first entered the chamber and saw the ring suspended in its containment field, pale gold, impossibly old, humming at a frequency that made the inner ear feel like it remembered something. Most candidates stopped, stared. The Drothi elder had wept openly. 2 of the Finnish collective had gone into a brief but visible fugue. Una Choi had looked at it for perhaps 4 seconds, nodded slightly, and gone to find food. He crossed the hall. "Candidate Choi," he said. She turned. Her eyes were dark and calm, and she looked at him the way he had seen experienced diplomats look at situations they had not yet classified. Fully present, not committing. "Ambassador," she said. "Thalindri, right? I read the briefing." "You read the briefing." "Twice." She ate the last of the orange thing. "And some supplementary material from your public archive. The ring's response history. The pattern analysis from the 2nd and 3rd centuries of the Accord." She paused. "I couldn't find much on the selection mechanism itself. The official documents describe it as intrinsic resonance. That doesn't mean anything." Varek felt something shift in his assessment. Most candidates accept the framing. Most candidates probably had 12 years to get used to the framing. She glanced at the ring again. "I had 3 weeks. I didn't have time to get comfortable with mystery. I had to actually think about it." "And what did you conclude?" She was quiet for a moment. Not the quiet of someone uncertain, but the quiet of someone deciding how much to say. "That the ring has been selecting correctly for 400 years, she said finally. "Every candidate it chose managed to hold the Accord together through at least one major crisis during their tenure. That's not luck. That's a pattern." She met his eyes. "Whatever it's measuring, it's not credentials." The ceremony began at the 3rd hour. Each candidate approached the containment field in the order their civilization had joined the Accord. The ring would either respond, a subtle brightening, a shift in tone, or it would not. No candidate was disqualified for a non-response. The selection was advisory, technically. The conclave still voted, technically. In 400 years, no conclave had voted against the ring's choice. Aresa of the Salvari approached first. She was extraordinary to watch, composed, radiant with years of training, her approach a perfect execution of the Accord's ceremonial form. The ring brightened slightly. Appreciative murmur from the gallery. The Drothi elder moved with great dignity. Another response. Slightly warmer. One by one they came. Some responses were stronger. Some were faint. The Finnish collective produced an unusual harmonic that made the ring vibrate at a frequency that silenced the room. Impressive, but unstable, and after 12 seconds the ring dimmed back to neutral. Una Choi was last. Humanity was always last. They had joined the Accord most recently. She walked to the field without ceremony. No formal posture. No ritual breathing. She stopped at the appropriate distance and looked at the ring, and the ring did not brighten. It opened. That was the only word any of the observers would later use, though none of them could precisely explain what they meant. The containment field registered no change. The ring did not move. But something in the quality of its light shifted, the way the quality of a room shifts when a window opens. Not the light itself, but the sense of air, of depth, of something beyond the immediate surface. The Drothy Elder made a sound. The Finnish collective went silent. Varric stopped breathing. Una Choi stood in front of the ring for 11 seconds. Then she exhaled slowly through her nose and stepped back. She did not smile. She did not raise her arms. She looked, if anything, slightly more tired than she had before. After the vote, unanimous, which had not happened in 60 years, Varric found her again. She was sitting in one of the outer corridors, her back against the curved wall, looking at her own hands. "You knew," he said. She looked up. "That it would choose me? That something would happen." She considered that. "I thought something might. I wasn't sure." She flexed her fingers slowly. "It's a strange feeling. Not like being chosen. More like being recognized." Varric sat down across from her, not beside her. That would have been presumptuous, and tried to organize a question he had been carrying for 6 hours. "The pattern analysis you mentioned," he said. "What did you actually find?" She was quiet for a moment. Every ring-bearer the Accord records faced a crisis they weren't trained for. Not the crisis they were expected to face. Something adjacent, something that fell between categories. She paused. The ones who held the Accord together weren't the ones with the most expertise. They were the ones who could hold ambiguity without resolving it too fast. Who could sit with a problem that didn't have a clean answer and not panic into a bad decision. You believe that is what the ring measures. I think it measures something in that direction. She looked down at her hands again. In crisis negotiation, the worst thing you can do is need resolution more than the person across from you. If you need the situation to end, you'll accept a bad ending just to make it stop. The people who can outlast the discomfort, who can hold space for the mess without flinching, they're the ones who get to actually choose the outcome. Varric thought of the ring opening. He thought of the way it had looked, not at her, but with her, somehow, as though it had found something in alignment. Humanity has been in the Accord for only 40 years, he said. I know. You have fewer resources, less history, less. I know. She said it without defensiveness. Just fact. We're also the only species in the Accord that negotiated our entry terms from a position of complete military disadvantage and still got a fair seat. Our first ambassador spent 8 months in those talks. She didn't have leverage. She just had patience and the willingness to be the last one still sitting at the table. Varric had read that history. He had never thought of it quite that way. You are worried, she said. Not a question. About your preparedness, yes. She nodded, and the nod was generous. It did not dismiss the concern or perform confidence she didn't have. I'm worried too, she said. But not about the same things you are. I'm not worried about what I don't know. I'm worried about not being able to hold the center when things get bad. She looked up at him. That's the job, right? Not knowing everything. Just not breaking under what you don't know. He looked at her for a long time. She looked back, patient, clear-eyed, not trying to convince him of anything. The ring had opened. He thought he was beginning to understand why. The conclave's first session, he said, is in 3 days. There is a border dispute between the Salvari and the Krethdi that has been waiting for 18 months. It is not clean. It will not resolve quickly. Good, she said simply. He blinked. If it were clean, anyone could do it. She pushed herself to her feet, brushing dust from her plain formal jacket. Walk me through the Salvari file. Start from the beginning. Don't summarize. I need the actual shape of it. Varric stood. He began to talk. She listened the way people listen when they intend to remember everything. Not nodding, not filling silence. Just completely present, holding every complication without flinching. The ring, in its chamber 3 corridors away, hummed quietly in the dark. It had chosen correctly. It always did.